guess at the end of the last chapter, there's a couple little things. There's the road song of the Banderlog, and then we get to our next chapter. Here we go, in a flung festoon, halfway up the jealous moon. Do you envy our pranceful bands? Don't you wish you had extra hands? Wouldn't you like if your tails were so curved in the shape of a Cupid's bow? Now you're angry, but never mind. Brother, thy tail hangs down behind. Here we sit, in a branchy row, thinking of beautiful things we know, dreaming of deeds that we mean to do, all complete in a minute or two. Something noble and grand and good, done by merely wishing we could. Now we're going to, never mind. Brother, thy tail hangs down behind. All the talk we have ever had, uttered by bat or beast or bird, hide or fin or scale or feather, jabber it quickly and all together. Excellent, wonderful, once again. Now we are talking just like men. Let's pretend we are. Never mind. Brother, thy tail hangs down behind. This is the way of the monkey kind. Then join our leaping lines and scumfish through the pines that rocket by where, light and high, the wild grape swings. By the rubbish in our wake and the noble noise we make, be sure, we're going to do some splendid things. Chapter 5. Tiger, Tiger. What of the hunting, hunter bold? Brother, the watch was long and cold. What of the quarry you want to kill? Brother, he crops in the jungle still. Where is the power that made your pride? Brother, it ebbs from my flank and side. Where's the haste that ye hurry by? Brother, I go to my lair to die. Now we must go back to the first tale, when Mowgli left the wolf's cave after the fight with the pack at the Council Rock. He went down to the ploughed lands where the villagers lived, but he would not stop there because it was too near to the jungle, and he knew that he had made at least one bad enemy at the council, so he hurried on, keeping to the rough road that ran down the valley, and followed it to a steady jog trot for nearly 20 miles, till he came to a country that he did not know. The valley opened out into a great plain, dotted over with rocks and cut up by ravines. At one end stood a little village, and at the other the thick jungle came down in a sweep to the grazing grounds, and stopped there as though it had been cut off with a hoe. All over the plain, cattle and buffaloes were grazing, and when the little boys in charge of the herd saw Mowgli, they shouted and ran away. And the yellow pariah dogs that hang about every Indian village barked. Mowgli walked on, for he was feeling hungry. And when he came to the village gate, he saw that the big thorn bush that was drawn up before the gate at twilight pushed to one side. Humph, he said, for he had come across more than one such barricade in his night rambles after things to eat. So men are afraid of the people of the jungle here also. He sat down by the gate, and when a man came out, he stood up, opened his mouth, and pointed down it to show that he wanted food. The man stared and ran back up the one street of the village, shouting for a priest, who was a big, fat man dressed in white, with a red and yellow mark on his forehead. The priest came to the gate, and with him at least 100 people, who stared and talked and shouted and pointed at Mowgli. They have no manners, these men-folk, said Mowgli to himself. Only the grey ape would behave as they do. So he threw back his long hair and frowned at the crowd. "What is there to be afraid of?" said the priest. "Look at the marks on his arms and legs. They are the bites of wolves, but he is but a wolf child run away from the jungle." Of course, in playing together, the cubs had often nipped Mowgli harder than they intended, and there were white scars all over his arms and legs, but he would have been the last person in the world to call these bites, for he knew what real biting meant. "Arr, arr," said two of the three women together. "To be bitten by wolves, poor child. He is a handsome boy. He has eyes like red fire. By my honor, Messua, he is not unlike thy boy that was taken by the tiger." "Let me look," said a woman, with heavy copper rings on her wrists and ankles, and she peered at Mowgli under the palm of her hand. "Indeed he is not. He is thinner, but he has the very look of my boy." The priest was a clever man. He knew that Messua was wife to the richest villager in the place. So he looked up at the sky for a minute and said solemnly, "What the jungle has taken, the jungle has restored. Take the boy into thy house, my sister, and forget not to honor the priest who sees so far into the lives of men." "By the bull that bought me," said Mowgli to himself. "But all this talking is like another looking over by the pack. Well, if I am a man I must become." The crowd parted as the woman beckoned Mowgli to her hut, where there was a red lacquered bedstead with great earthen grain chest with curious raised patterns on it, half a dozen copper cooking pots, and an image of a Hindu god in a little alcove, and on the wall a real looking glass, such as they sell at the country fairs. She gave him a long drink of milk and some bread, and then she laid her hand on his head and looked into his eyes, for she thought perhaps that he might be her real son, come back from the jungle, where the tiger had taken him. So she said, "Nathu, O Nathu." Mowgli did not show that he knew the name. "Dost thou not remember the day when I gave thee thy new shoes?" She touched his foot, and it was almost as hard as horn. "No," she said sorrowfully, "these feet have never worn shoes. But thou art very like my Nathu. Thou shalt be my son." Mowgli was uneasy, because he had never been under a roof before, but as he looked at the thatch, he saw that he could tear it out any time if he wanted to get away, and that the window had no fastenings. "What is the good of a man," he said to himself at last, "if he does not understand man's talk? Now I am as silly and dumb as a man would be with us in the jungle. I must speak their talk." It was not for fun that he had learned, while he was with the wolves, to imitate the challenge of the bucks of the jungle and the grunt of the little wild pig. So as soon as Messua pronounced a word, Mowgli would imitate it almost perfectly. Before dark he had learned the names of many things in the hut. There was a difficulty at bedtime, because Mowgli would not sleep under anything that looked so like a panther trap as that hut, and when they shut the door he went through the window. "Give him his will," said Messua's husband. "Remember, he can never till now have slept on a bed. If he is indeed sent in the place of our son, he will not run away." So Mowgli stretched himself in some long, clean grass at the edge of the field, but before he had closed his eyes, a soft gray nose poked him under the chin. "Phew," said Gray Brother. He was the eldest of Mother Wolf's cubs. "This is a poor reward for following thee 20 miles. Thou smellest of wood smoke and cattle, altogether like a man already. Wake, little brother, I bring news." Are all well in the jungle?" said Mowgli, hugging him. "All except the wolves that were burned with the red flower. Now listen, Shere Khan has gone away to hunt far off till his coat grows again, for he is badly singed. When he returns he swears that he will lay thy bones in the Waingunga. There are 2 words to that. I also have made a little promise, but news is always good. I am tired tonight, very tired with new things, Grey Brother. But bring me the news always. Thou wilt not forget that thou art a wolf. Men will not make thee forget, Grey Brother, anxiously. Said Grey Brother anxiously. Never. I will always remember that I love thee and all in our cave. But also I will always remember that I have been cast out of the pack, and that thou mayest be cast out of another pack. Men are only men, little brother, and their talk is like the talk of frogs in a pond. When I come down here again, I will wait for thee in the bamboo at the edge of the grazing ground. For 3 months after that night, Mowgli hardly ever left the village gate. He was so busy learning the ways and customs of men. First he had to wear a cloth round him, which annoyed him horribly. Then he had to learn about money, which he did not in the least understand, and about ploughing, of which he did not see the use. Then the little children in the village made him very angry. Luckily, the law of the jungle had taught him to keep his temper, for in the jungle life and food depend on keeping your temper. But when they made fun of him because he would not play games or fly kites, or because he mispronounced some word, only the knowledge that it was unsportsmanlike to kill little naked cubs kept him from picking them up and breaking them in two. He did not know his own strength in the least. In the jungle, he knew he was weak compared with the beasts, but in the village, people said that he was as strong as a bull. And Mowgli had not the faintest idea of the difference that caste makes between man and man. When the potter's donkey slipped in the clay pit, Mowgli hauled it out by the tail and helped to stack the pots for the journey to the market to Kwanhiwara. That was very shocking, too, for the potter is a low-caste man, and his donkey is worse. When the priest scolded him, Mowgli threatened to put him on the donkey too, and the priest told Messua's husband that Mowgli had better be set to work as soon as possible. And the village headman told Mowgli that he would have to go out with the buffaloes next day and herd them while they grazed. No one was more pleased than Mowgli, and that night, because he had been appointed, as it were, a servant of the village, as it were, he went off to a circle that met every evening on a masonry platform under a great fig tree. It was the village club, and the head man and the watchman and the barber, who knew all the gossip of the village, and old Buldeo, the village hunter, who had a tower musket, met and smoked. The monkeys sat and talked in the upper branches, and there was a hole under the platform where a cobra lived, and he had his little platter of milk every night, because he was sacred, and the old men sat around the tree and talked and pulled at the big hookahs, water pipes, till far into the night. They told wonderful tales of gods and men and ghosts. And Buldeo told even more wonderful ones, of the ways of beasts in the jungle, till the eyes of the children sitting outside the circle bulged out of their heads. Most of the tales were about animals, for the jungle was always at their door. The deer and the wild pigs grubbed up their crops, and now and again the tiger carried off a man at twilight, within sight of the village gates. Well, I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Good night, Emily. Sleep well. I love you.